The night I realized I had been running from something my entire life began with a simple walk toward the front door. The music behind me was loud, the laughter from the living room spilling into the hallway, but all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat. I had already grabbed my jacket and quietly slipped outside, thinking no one would notice. I always did that. Leave early, disappear before conversations got too deep, before emotions got too close. But that night, just as the cold autumn air hit my face and I stepped off the porch, I heard the door swing open behind me, and then I heard her voice. My friend's older sister had followed me outside. She stood on the porch steps under the dim yellow light, her arms folded, watching me like she had been waiting years for that exact moment. Her name was Rebecca, and she had always been someone I tried not to look at for too long. Not because I didn't like her, but because something about her presence made me feel exposed, like she could see straight through the walls I spent years building around myself. She looked at me and said something that stopped me mid-step. "You always walk away too soon." Before we continue this story, take a second to like the video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy emotional stories like this. Your support helps these stories reach people who might really need them today. I turned around slowly, pretending I didn't understand what she meant, but deep down I knew exactly what she was talking about. Rebecca had known me since I was 16, back when her younger brother Nathan and I used to spend every weekend playing basketball in their driveway in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. Their house had always been warm, full of laughter, the kind of place where you felt safe just sitting in the kitchen while someone cooked dinner. But even back then, I never stayed too long. If conversations got personal, I'd leave. If someone asked too many questions about my life, I'd make an excuse and disappear. It became a habit over the years. College friends, relationships, opportunities. Whenever something started to feel real, I would quietly walk away before anyone noticed I was gone. And Rebecca had seen every single one of those moments. Standing there in the chilly night air, I realized something strange. She wasn't angry, she wasn't judging me. There was something softer in her eyes, something that almost looked like concern. She walked down the porch steps slowly and stopped a few feet away from me. The party noise faded behind us as the door closed, leaving the two of us alone under a quiet sky filled with distant stars. I remember feeling like a kid again in that moment, like the same insecure 17-year-old who never quite felt like he belonged anywhere. My name is Marcus Hale, and for most of my life I believed that leaving first meant you couldn't get hurt. Rebecca knew that too. She had watched me drift through years of friendships and relationships like a ghost passing through rooms, never staying long enough to let anyone truly know me. And for reasons I didn't understand, she had always noticed. She told me something that night I had never heard from anyone before. She said people who leave early usually aren't trying to escape others. They're trying to escape themselves. Those words hit harder than anything I expected. I felt my chest tighten, like something inside me had been quietly breaking open for years and finally cracked. For a long time, I didn't say anything. The cold wind moved through the trees along the sidewalk, carrying the faint smell of fallen leaves. It felt like the whole neighborhood had gone silent just to listen to what was happening between us. Rebecca told me she remembered the first time she realized I did this. It was years ago, during one of Nathan's birthday parties. Everyone had gathered in the backyard around a bonfire. People were laughing, telling stories, opening up about their lives. And right when the conversation started turning personal, when someone asked about my family, I suddenly stood up and left without saying goodbye. She had watched me walk down the street alone that night, and apparently, she had never forgotten it. What surprised me most wasn't the memory. It was the fact that she cared enough to remember. You see, my childhood wasn't something I talked about. My father had left when I was young, and my mother worked 2 jobs just to keep our tiny apartment in Cincinnati. I grew up learning how to stay quiet, how to handle problems alone, how to never depend too much on people, because people eventually leave. So I learned to leave first. Rebecca said she understood that feeling more than I realized. Her voice softened as she talked about how she spent years watching her own relationships fall apart because people were afraid to stay when things got complicated. But she said something that changed the way I saw everything. She said sometimes the bravest thing someone can do is simply stay. Those words stayed with me longer than the cold air, longer than the quiet street around us. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to run away from a conversation. Instead, I found myself standing there, listening, really listening. It felt strange, but also peaceful. Rebecca didn't pressure me. She didn't ask me to explain my entire life or confess every fear I had. She simply stood there beside me like someone who believed I deserved more than the lonely habits I had built for myself. And in that moment, I realized something uncomfortable. I had spent years assuming nobody noticed when I disappeared, but someone had been watching all along. Someone had been hoping I would stop running. The conversation lasted longer than I expected. The party inside the house eventually quieted down, and cars began leaving the driveway one by one. But neither of us rushed back inside. Rebecca told me something else before the night ended. She said that every time she saw me leave early, she wondered what would happen if someone simply stopped me and asked why. No one had ever done that before, until tonight. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that they're not alone. Your support truly means everything. Something shifted inside me that night. It wasn't a sudden transformation or a magical solution to years of emotional habits, but it was the first small step towards something different. For the first time in my life, I stayed. Rebecca and I walked slowly down the quiet street, talking about simple things at first. Work, music, childhood memories. But little by little, the conversation became more honest, more real. I told her things I had never told anyone before. And strangely enough, the world didn't collapse when I did. Instead, it felt lighter. Months passed after that night, and life continued the way life always does. But something inside me had changed. I started calling friends instead of disappearing. I stayed longer at gatherings. I listened when people shared their stories instead of avoiding them. And Rebecca? She remained part of my life in a quiet, steady way. Not because she chased after me, but because she never needed to. She had simply shown me what it meant to care enough to stop someone before they walked away. Years later, when I think about the moment everything began to change, I don't remember the party or the music or the cold autumn air. I remember a voice behind me saying the words that no one else had ever said. You always walk away too soon. And for the first time in my life, I didn't. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. In the comments below, write the words, I choose to stay. It's a small reminder that sometimes the most powerful choice we can make is to remain present in the lives of the people who care about us. Because the truth is, every one of us has moments where walking away feels easier. But staying is what changes everything. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who might be feeling alone right now. And remember this, sometimes the person who stops you from walking away is the person who helps you finally find your way home.